What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant, we finally have our hands on the patch notes for patch 1.2.4, which is of course the Ines patch. As of the time of you watching this video as it goes live, it should be an hour until we are able to log into the game. There were some slight delays and they had to actually postpone the patch window by 7 hours, I believe, in total, due to some problems that they found in the back end. I think this is a good thing. I wouldn't want the patch to go live and then to have all kinds of weird shit happening like crashes and whatnot. So super cool. What I want us to do is just jump through the patch notes. Of course, I'm not going to go through everything. Things like shop updates and stuff like that, I don't really spend too much time on, because I kind of feel like, you know, that's not really for everybody. Some people avoid the shop like the plague, and I respect that. So first things first, we of course have, I think, what is probably the one massive feature of this patch. Now, of course, we do get Ines, we get, you know, some other things happening in this patch as well, but weapon core unlocking seems to be kind of like the big thing about this patch, and rightfully so, since it essentially becomes this new way that you can really elevate the damage profile of your ultimate weapons. So to be able to do this, you must be Mastery rank 18, and there's a quest that you have to actually complete. And get this, we're finally gonna see some useful, let's say, interactions with this Deslin NPC. Most people don't know about this NPC, but he's down quite near where you do the researching. He stands around the corner there by the stairs and usually sells shitty guns. So he's actually gonna be able to do something decent now. So once you have completed this quest, and if you have a level 100 ultimate weapon and one core binder, you will be able to unlock. Now, the process works like this. To be able to gain access to weapon cores and being able to put them into weapons, you first of all have to unlock the weapon by using something called a core binder. And we'll look just now at where exactly we get these from. That's basically the point. So you unlock the weapon with a core binder, and then you essentially go farm these weapon cores. Now, each ultimate weapon has a different selection or flavor of cores. These cores have different types, like you have firepower cores, hit cores, attribute cores, tactical cores, precision cores, and so on. And you also have free cores, which can take any of the other ones. And the point is that you match the cores. So if you have a firepower augmentation on there, you have to put a firepower core into it. Now, of course, all of the stats that we see in here are stats that we are already familiar with. So we see some favorites here like firearm attack, weak point damage, crit hit, crit dam, rounds per magazine, fire rate, and so on. So these are ways for us to really lean into a lot more power, specifically depending on which of these attributes we want to stack. So I think by default, some of these will be no-brainers, like you'll want to throw in additional firearm attack because fucking why not? But it can produce some, let's say, funny situations where maybe you can focus on, I don't know, for argument's sake, like as much rounds per magazine as possible, and you can turn a weapon potentially that usually has a problematic mag size to something that is much more to your liking. But with only 5 of these cores, and with I assume at least 3 out of the 5 and possibly 4 out of the 5 being fixed, it doesn't allow that much kind of like, you know, customization, if I can put it that way. I think generally speaking, there's going to be some meta items that you put in there, and anything else that you put in there will be more just, you know, for the shits and giggles. But I'm excited to mess around with the system. I think it's going to make certain weapons really fucking OP. Enduring Legacy, I think, is going to be insane because it's already such a powerhouse. So having this ability to just stack additional damage, additional power, and things like that on top of it, I'm really looking forward to that. So let's fucking go. Now, first of all, the cores themselves, they have tiers. So they go from 1, 2, 3, 4 Roman numerals, and the higher the tier, so let's see, the higher the tier, the better the effect values they have. So what I can remember from when we saw the demo where they showed off the patch and everything like that, the ranges in which the items can roll are better and higher the higher the tier. So let's say, for example, the lowest tier would be something like 1 to 2%. So you either get a 1% increase or a 2% increase. And then I think like I saw like the highest tiers was like a 2 to 8%. So even within the tiers, you have, you know, also like randomization, or let's say, for example, RNG. So it's not always that if you find something like, let's say, a you know, the maximum tier. Let's say the maximum tier is tier 5, and then you will get the maximum damage from that, because that can still potentially roll, let's say, the lowest version of that tier 5 item when you slap it in. Now, I think this is something that's going to piss people off a lot. RNG in this game seems to really fucking twist people up. I think obviously the point is that this is a system that they want you to kind of like work at, and obviously they're trying to figure more and more ways to keep people engaged with the game. And this way it's kind of like a fucking hamster wheel where you are doing the activity to get the weapon cores, and then you slot them in, and then you don't get the best roll, and you're like, fuck me, and then you go back and you go run some more. So fundamentally, me as a player, not as a content creator, but as a player, I don't have a problem with this. I like grinding out things and everything like that, and I like getting lucky. The fucking euphoria strike you get from getting like the max percentage or something like that is dope. Endorphins and whatnot, but it's probably not for everybody, and I think this is probably going to be something that people are going to moan about if they don't get the rolls they want. But nonetheless, that's basically the system. So when you then slap a core into it, you use the weapon core, and you use something called a core particle disruptor. This is essentially the currency, the item that is used to pay for slotting it in. Now, when you slot it in, even if you already have another core in, you can choose to keep the new one or keep the old one. So the point is, you'll start with like the lowest cores, and then as you progress deeper into the new activity, which we're going to talk about just now, you are going to get better cores, and then you'll roll them into your weapon core slots, and if they're better, you keep them, and so on. And so it's essentially like you're building this weapon up. So again, I like the idea of that. You start and you sort of like incrementally increase it up. I think it's pretty cool. And then what they say is where to obtain these materials: core binders. Remember, core binders are what you use to unlock your weapon cores for the first time. Is an item required for core unlock and can be crafted through research after collecting Void Abyss metal fragments from Void Intercept battle, Void Abyss, so the new Defiler boss, and infiltration operations 400%. This is really good. It means that people that have no interest in fighting these really tough Void Intercept battles have another way of also getting it, which is a very fun activity. 400% infiltration operations are dope, so that's pretty cool. Core Particle Disruptor, which is the currency item that you pay alongside the weapon core to slot it in, can also be crafted, for core replacement. So in other words, when you roll one on top of another core, can also be crafted through research after collecting, once again, Void Abyss metal fragments. So both of these items are researched, which does mean that there's a bit of a time gate to it. I'm assuming these research times will be low, but they are present nonetheless. So that's of course something that also usually upsets people. Then core items can be acquired from Void Erosion Purge. So your actual weapon cores come from the new activity Void Erosion Purge, which is essentially a wave-based activity that you go in stages, and every time that you finish the boss in the correct amount of time and underneath, you know, the fucking deadline, you progress to the next stage. And the higher you climb in this activity, the more or the better weapon cores you can get. That's pretty much how it works. Core items with higher tiers can be found from higher difficulties. Bear in mind, not all of the tiers will be in this patch. There's another patch, a third patch for Season 2 coming in February, which will have the back end of the tiers. So even now, at this point in time, when this patch drops, you will not be able to grind the best weapon cores that there are. So this quest itself, when you reach Mastery rank 18, you can see a disseminating response policy to void anomalies. So you have to complete this quest to be able to actually partake in this entire system. Then something which seemingly has become quite polarizing with the community is the fact that they are playing like match game, if you're familiar with the Destiny terminology for that, but essentially assigning fixed elements to certain weapons. That's because this new activity, Void, what is it called? These fucking names. Void Erosion Purge essentially has something new in it where they will have enemies that have shields or that have damage reduction based on the element that they are flavored. And if you are using the element that they have damage reduction against, you're dealing 80% less damage to them, which is of course massive. So the idea would be that you have a selection of these weapons available, and then you see, okay, cool, in this stage I'm going to be fighting enemies that are fucking very resistant to fire, which means they take more damage from other elements, and then you would switch your loadout so that you can go in. Now, one very important thing that we have to notice is that not all the weapons, all right, have been added to this table. Like, for example, you can see that Enduring Legacy is not here. So Enduring Legacy is not one of the weapons that is being matched. In fact, I don't remember all the names off the top of my head, but it kind of feels like fucking Enduring Legacy might be the only one that is exempt from this. Kind of weird. But anyway, so the idea would be that you would, you know, pick one weapon of each one of these elements that you like using, and I think you should juice it up. And then when you are doing this activity, this will give you a gun that is good in that elemental pocket, and that you can essentially deal with these new shields. Then of course we have Ines, so she's the new Descendant that is dropping. We will all be excited and trying to build her in different ways and figure out if she's good at mobbing, if she's good at bossing, if she's good at bossing and mobbing. I've made up at this point like 2 videos specifically on Ines. If you know, figuring out like which reactor she's going to use and so on. They mention her abilities and everything again. They do also mention her 2 Transcendent mods which drop with them. I'm not going to go through her abilities and stuff so much. I do have a previous video for that if you want to check it out, but I do quickly want to discuss the 2 Transcendent mods, because previously I felt like I didn't have enough detail about this, but now we understand it a bit better. The first one is called Plasma Ball. Now, unlike the existing passive skill Plasma Oscillation, which is her, you know, passive, it does not boost skill critical hit rate, but generates Plasma Ball that defends incoming attacks from enemies for better stability. So it looks like this is kind of like you trade some of your damage for more survivability. Now it says that the duration of Plasma Ball increases in relation to max MP. This is a big function of hers. Her passive is stronger the more MP you have, the more max MP you have. And so this then means that, you know, alongside that, the strength of the durability, in other words, the damage reduction or whatever this is also going to increase with max MP. So kind of make it like pretty tanky. In addition, it additionally allows a character hits enemies that have conductors. So this is the debuff that you put on enemies to deal dark current even without critical hit. So generally speaking, how she works is if she crit hits, then she deals this damage. So this means that you'll do this by default. Inflict conductor status effect to enemies hit by the skill and deal additional damage to enemies that are already in conductor state, meaning like once you conductor state is the debuff that she puts on enemies. Once they have that on there, you deal more damage to enemies that are debuffed like this. And then it also mentions where you can get this, which is Obstructor hard difficulty, combining modules, or Slumber Valley hard difficulty. So we'll probably be smashing out some Obstructor, which by the way you can solo now, so that's pretty sweet. Her second Transcendent mod is called Time of the Hunting Hounds. And this says that active 1 and 3, so her skill 1 and 3, her normal skill 1 is a Chain Lightning. This says, unlike Chain Lightning, it hits a smaller number of enemies but changes to stacking skill with a reduced cooldown. And then 3, Snare Acrobatics, gathers lightning in both hands and charge forward with force. So usually how a 3 works is it's an ability that you charge, and then when you can let it go at any time, but if you hold it into the maximum, then it kind of like shoots this cone of lightning like forward. Now this changes the skill, and in the video of her they also show this off, where essentially this makes the skill not charge in place. Well, it still charges in place, but then when you let it go, she actually like somersaults forward and does like this big fucking hit. So it's like a mobility skill. So for me, and then it also mentions that this comes from Hajos the Haven and Frostwalker, which again you can solo now, so whoop-de-doo. So for me, if I had to look at this just on face value and say, okay, which module is suited for what? It seems to me like the first skill module might be her bossing module, and the second skill module might be her mobbing module. At the moment right now, that's how I'm reading it, but of course once we have her in our hands, we'll start checking this out and I will report back. Then Void Erosion Purge is the new content. Like I said, you do this to be able to get yourself some weapon cores, and this is supposed to be extremely tough, especially when you get later on. And the idea here being that there are 20 total stages. We can only see 10 here. There'll be another page with another 10. And so you do these, you by the way have to be mastery rank 18, and then you talk to NPC Descendant Instructor and complete a quest, and then you'll be able to access these. All right. So the point is that you will go into this sort of like arena, you'll fight the enemies there, and if you kill the enemies fast enough, it will spawn a boss. If you kill the boss fast enough and you come in under the time, it unlocks the next stage and you can go. I'm sure that each stage will drop a different collection of, as you can see here with the reward info here. So you'll later on be able to say, okay, cool, I really want stage 3, 4, and 5 because there's some specific weapon cores that I'm looking for from there. Or maybe it's just a case of like the first couple of ones all drop 1s, the next couple of ones all drop 2s, and so on and so forth. So the idea would always be just to go as high as possible. Again, we don't have all the information and we will see a little bit later. So there is public matchmaking at certain stages, and all the other stages also will allow private matchmaking only. So the idea being that you can use some of these stages when you reach them to match up with other players, and that will obviously make, I would imagine, the activity a little bit easier to do rather than, you know, being solo, and then when you get down, then, you know, it's fucking bye-bye. So they mentioned this. What I spoke about earlier is the fact that some of these enemies will have attribute barriers, in other words, elemental barriers, and it says that it reduces the damage from the same attribute by 81. So if you roll in with a fucking bunny and you are running Thunder Cage with like fucking lightning, you know, on or something like that, and you go up against Legion of Immortality, you are going to have a hard time because they are going to have 81% fucking damage reduction against all your shit. So that is the reason why, and this is what match game is, right? So you'll have to match these up. Now, how frustrating this is gonna be remains to be seen. Generally speaking, stuff like this doesn't usually irk me unless it's fucking really, really oppressive. But again, difficult to say. We're gonna try this out. I'll probably do like a short little follow-up video and go like, Void Erosion Purge is a dub, Weapon Cause is a dub, Defiler is shit, whatever, and just kind of like give like my impressions of the patch, possibly over the weekend or something like that. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see that. Then of course there's the new Void Abyss boss, so Defiler. This replaces the current one, right? So the point being that they will cycle these. They've mentioned that these colossi will be cycled, you know, from season to season, and pretty much the point would be that you can kind of like figure out if you are looking for specific ones to farm or something like that. Then there's probably going to be some kind of like, I don't know how fast the cycle will be. Is it like 3 times a season or something like that? I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. But yes, Infernal Walker goes away and Defiler comes back, but you can still buy all of Infernal Walker's shit from ETA this weekend. I don't know if that's every weekend, but definitely still this weekend. So if you are still looking for the Infernal Walker cosmetics or the fucking back toy, at the very least you still have this weekend to get it. Now, Defiler is a toxic Colossus, which means that he is going to be weak against electric, which is really good because Ines is electric, and then of course we have Bunny and we have Sharon, so we have some decent options to go up against him. Super excited to check out this. I really enjoyed Infernal Walker. I thought it was a nice fight, and once you kind of got the rotation down, everything was still very fun to do, so didn't mind that at all. And I think probably Defiler will be some of the same. Then special operations will cycle now as well. This is something that kind of like eluded me completely. People were telling me this in the comments and I was like, holy fuck, I didn't even know this. Like, duh. But yes, so Fortress will change to Echo Swamp and White Knight Gulch will change to Sterile Land. So basically Fortress up here was the one which was good for weapon XP. That will now move down to Echo Swamp. So I assume Echo Swamp will be good for weapon XP. And then Block Hyper Mining, which was in White Knight Gulch, now moves to Sterile Land. And once again, this one will be better for character XP. And this is kind of like the 2 primary ways in which you should be leveling. Then they mentioned where you can get Keelan now, since there's some changes with Ines's blueprints coming in. So Ines is specifically dropping from hard difficulty Void Vessel, and Keelan drops down to normal difficulty Void Vessel. Then ETA, they changed the timing slightly here, so it's basically an additional day that it's open. So it used to be 11 o'clock Sunday PST, now it's Monday 11 o'clock PST, so there's an additional day there for you to essentially farm and buy stuff if you want to. Then of course I do want to just mention the fact that they are saying that limited weapons which come in the season pass are now also being added to Deslin, and you can essentially get the blueprints from him with something called support coins. And you can get these support coins by doing the infiltration operations other infiltration support function. So if you join the game, let's say in season 3 or something like that, it's not that you will never have the season 1 or season 2 ultimate weapon. There's going to be a different way for you to get this, and I think that's pretty cool. They say the ultimate weapon blueprints for each battle pass season will be added every 6 months. So I believe it's a season every 3 months, so it means there's like a 2-season delay from the looks of it or something like that, unless I'm misunderstanding how that works. Then we have some balance adjustments to certain descendants. This was already mentioned, and again we already saw this. I made a video on this when we went through this with the dev talk. But Valby has a whole bunch of changes here. I'm not going to read values and stuff like that to you. I just want to pull your attention to 2 different things. Fucking Bubble Bullet is insane now. At least it looks like it. The range of Bubble Bullet has been increased, and its explosion radius now grows with each bounce. So when it bounces out like that, that will grow. That's pretty fucking sweet. And then also Singing Water, which is one of the Transcendent mods, which essentially spawns like this fucking dancing water thing that gets the enemies to attack that, now actually has an explosion at the end when that distraction expires. And the damage on this is kind of fucking nutty. Like level 4 of this shit is 952, 952%. So this might actually be fucking pretty sick, because you can get enemies to like basically come to this thing, and then when it explodes, it deals like a fuckload of damage. The radius, does it say what the radius is? Explosion, damage, and range. Where the fuck is the range? It doesn't show the range. But anyway, perhaps you could even like increase that range with like fucking mods and stuff. But this is definitely something that I want to check out, so for sure. Then we have Jayber. Dude, people were blowing up my comments going like, yeah, dude, this is just the stuff, because I was like, dude, this is like the most fucking lukewarm changes to a Descendant I've ever seen. It still doesn't fix any of his issues. It still makes fucking Jayber a lame motherfucker. And people were saying, yeah, but dude, those are just the things they show. They're gonna be changing some other stuff in the background and stuff. Nope, that didn't happen. It's kind of just exactly the stuff that they showed in the dev talk, which is fucking poo-poo. So no thank you, fucking no thanks, Jayber, goodbye. Okay. Then we have Luna. Luna has a massive amount of changes. Predominantly, it seems like it's a lot of like mobility based things, and basically making her music game a lot less punishing, which, yes, does address some of the Luna complaints out there. And that's because people are often saying like, look, she's just not fun to play because you're concentrating so much on hitting those notes that you're not seeing anything around you. It's basically just a very taxing way to play the game. I get that. I don't know if this solves those problems. We'll only know in practice, but I'm open to it because Luna is a fucking great support character to have, and really elevates the damage profiles of the other Descendants that are with her. She's fantastic in a fucking strike group against like Void Intercept bosses, so I'm all for it. Then you can see that Noise Surge has also gotten some damage buffs for it, so this seems to me like a really good change for Luna, and I'm excited to try her out and stuff like that, and finally bring a build video for her to the channel. Then we have some mention of the balance changes to Obstructor and Frostwalker to make them soloable, so you can also now solo these. That's pretty much all of the Void Intercept bosses soloable now, except for Deathstalker. And of course they need to make some changes. So essentially, usually what they do, and this is what they did with the other ones that they also made soloable, is that they basically lower their HP and their shield, they make them frenzy less, and they change some of their abilities to be less fucking punishing. So that's definitely true for Obstructor and Frostwalker. I'm excited to try this out. I kind of like want to build a Descendant now that can just do them all and be like the fucking master of all Void Intercept bosses. So that'll be kind of like the next challenge that I want to put for myself. And scanning through it, that's about it, I think. If I missed anything of real value, please go ahead and let me know in the comments. Of course, we're all going to see it in the game pretty soon. I'm excited to be able to play this shit and try it out. It's been a while since I've been really hyped to level up a Descendant. I was not that on board the fucking Keelan train, but I'm definitely ready to go with Ines. So super excited for that. Let me know in the comments below what you are looking forward to in this patch. Have fun playing it when it unlocks. I hope everybody's shit works fine and there's no weird stuff going on after the patch. And I'll see you in the next video. As always, fucking cheers.